Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. Blood trickled from the corner of Marcus's mouth, soaking into the tattered shirt clinging to his chiseled chest. Electromagnetic shackles bit into his wrists, each slight movement searing his skin, leaving it raw and red. In the dim, murky light of the cell, his piercing blue eyes blazed with defiance. Two towering guards, their golden skin shimmering with mineral-like veins, blocked the door, their weapons glowing faintly in their hands. "Still kicking, human? Thought your kind was softer than that." One guard sneered, lips curling in disdain. Marcus smirked, blood dripping down his chin, staining his torn collar. "Thought you hit harder than that." The other guard stepped forward, his electric baton crackling as it slammed into Marcus's shoulder. Pain exploded across his chest, but he clenched his teeth, refusing to let a single groan escape. "Shut your trap, animal!" the guard barked, but Marcus's icy stare remained unbroken, daring them to try again. The metal door screeched open, revealing a stark white hallway, cold as ice. Marcus was yanked to his feet, chains taut, and shoved forward. His worn boots skidded on the polished floor, but he stood tall, head high. Other creatures, some scaly, some with writhing tentacles, glided past, their scornful glances raking over him. One muttered something in a grating alien tongue, chuckling darkly. Marcus didn't understand the words, but the hostility hit him like a chill wind. They stopped at a double door etched with intricate patterns, more like a lab than a cell block. The doors slid open, unveiling a room bathed in pale blue light. Floating screens flickered, and machines hummed a low, steady drone. A slender figure with shimmering silver skin stepped forward from the side. This was Lyrian, chief medic of the Valthor, the Sylari's mothership. Her moon-white hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her deep purple eyes scanned Marcus like he was a curious specimen. He met her gaze, unblinking, trying to read her intentions. "Let him go," Lyrian commanded, her tone sharp but composed. The guards exchanged a glance, hesitating. "He's a dangerous prisoner," one said, gripping his weapon tighter. Lyrian turned, her stare silencing him. "Dangerous or not, he's mine in this room. Release him." No second warning was needed. The shackles clicked open, and Marcus nearly stumbled as his body was freed. He took a deep breath, the pain from his cracked ribs radiating through his chest, but he stood firm, eyes locked on Lyrian. "Lie down," she said, pointing to a metal table in the center. Marcus raised an eyebrow, flashing a strained grin. "No dinner date first?" Lyrian didn't respond, just tapped her wrist device. A holographic screen appeared, displaying Marcus's heart rate, blood pressure, and a slew of biometric data. "Elevated pulse, but not from fear," she noted, as if dictating a report. Marcus tilted his head, hiding the pain. "Maybe you're just too damn captivating." Lyrian paused, her eyes flicking over him, unflinched. "Humor won't save you, human." She activated a scanning device, a blue beam sweeping over Marcus's body, his vitals lighting up the screen. 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding, soft tissue damage. You're surviving better than expected." Marcus shrugged, wincing as pain shot through him. "They didn't hit hard enough." She stepped closer, the scanner pausing at Marcus's lower abdomen. The screen flashed red. Lyrian frowned, her fingers dancing over her wrist device. "Anomalous biosignals. Dilated blood vessels, erratic neural activity." Marcus smirked, eyes glinting. "You saying I'm turned on?" He was half joking, but a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. Was his body betraying something he didn't yet understand? Lyrian didn't answer immediately. She activated a privacy field, a faint glow enveloping the table, shielding them from surveillance cameras. "You're not like the other specimens," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. Marcus leaned forward, ignoring the pain. "You're not like the guards either. They want me dead." "You? What do you want?" She didn't reply, but her eyes wavered for a split second, long enough for Marcus to catch it. There was something in her, not scientific curiosity, but something deeper, harder to pin down. "Take off your shirt," she ordered, her tone steady again. Marcus chuckled. You first. Lyrian shot him a look sharp as a blade. Don't test me. But Marcus didn't back down. You've been testing me since you walked in. Studying me? Or just curious about humans? Lyrian turned away, her fingers tapping rapidly on the screen, but Marcus caught the tension in her movements, a crack in her cool facade. An alarm blared, shattering the moment. Lyrian snapped her head up, eyes darting to the screen. The ship's been breached, she said, fingers flying over her device. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Not me, I've been a little tied up. She ignored him, focused on her task. The lab doors burst open, and 2 guards stormed in, weapons ready. Dr. Lyrian, Sector 3's reporting intruders. Evacuate now. What about the prisoner? Lyrian asked, eyes still on her screen. One guard glared at Marcus, his gaze dripping with contempt. He stays. If it's the rebels, they'll tear him apart. Marcus let out a hoarse laugh. Let him try. Lyrian turned, her eyes locking onto his. He stays with me, she said, leaving no room for argument. The guards hesitated but didn't dare challenge her. The doors slammed shut, leaving Marcus and Lyrian in the trembling room as distant explosions echoed. You just saved me, or you're planning to dissect me later? Marcus asked, half teasing, half serious. Lyrian didn't answer, her hands moving swiftly over the console, locking the doors and activating another security layer. The rebels aren't my people. They're Zorath, a radical Sylari faction. If they get in here, we're both dead. Marcus shrugged, masking the pain. Then cut me loose, let me save my own ass. Lyrian paused, her eyes sweeping over him, weighing her options. She didn't trust him, but the situation left no room for hesitation. She punched in a code, and the electromagnetic cuffs fell to the floor. Marcus rubbed his wrists, dried blood flaking off. Thanks, but I still don't trust you. Lyrian stepped close, barely a foot away, her breath steady in the tense air. Good. Trust no one. But if you want to live, do what I say. A massive explosion rocked the room, dust raining from the ceiling. Marcus shot to his feet, gritting his teeth against the pain in his ribs. What's the plan, Doc? Lyrian didn't look at him, her hands gliding over the console, pulling up a map of the Valthor. We head to the engineering sector. There's a maintenance tunnel to the escape pods. If the Zorath get in, they'll target the power core first. And if they don't? Marcus asked, his gaze sharp. Lyrian turned unfazed. Then my guards will be back to chain you up again. Marcus gave a wry grin. Great options. He followed as she opened a hidden panel in the wall, revealing a narrow, pitch-black tunnel reeking of metal and oil. They moved fast, the faint glow from Lyrian's wrist device their only light. The explosions faded, but the sound of pounding footsteps and Sylari shouts echoed through the walls. Marcus stayed quiet, watching Lyrian. She moved with the precision of someone seasoned, not just a medic. You ever fight? He asked, keeping his voice low to avoid detection. Fighting's for soldiers, she replied without turning. But I've seen enough blood to know how to survive. Marcus smirked. You're more than a doctor, aren't you? Lyrian stopped, her eyes flicking to him, sharp but with a hint of unease. You asked too much for a dead man walking. The tunnel opened into a wider corridor, lined with pipes and humming machinery. A large screen on the wall showed chaos. Sylari soldiers exchanging fire with towering figures, their bodies glinting like liquid metal. Zorath. Lyrian pulled Marcus into a shadowy corner as a squad of soldiers ran past, unaware of them. They don't know I'm here, she whispered. If they find me, I'll be branded a traitor. For helping me? Marcus asked, half joking. Lyrian didn't answer, but her eyes said enough. She tugged him onward through cramped corridors until they reached a heavy door etched with Sylari symbols. Escape pods are beyond this, she said, punching a code into the panel. The door groaned open, revealing a chamber filled with sleek, gem-like devices. But before they could step inside, a roar echoed behind them. A Zorath, nearly 10 feet tall, its body shimmering like molten steel, appeared at the corridor's end. Its red eyes glowed, and it clutched a weapon pulsing with purple light. "Dr. Lyrian, you betray us for this filth?" it bellowed, advancing with heavy steps. Marcus shoved Lyrian behind him, though she resisted. "Stay back, Doc. I got this." He grabbed a metal rod from the debris, gripping it like a weapon. The Zorith laughed, the sound like clashing steel. "Human, you think you can challenge me?" Marcus smirked, blood still caked on his chin. "I've taken down bigger." The Zorith charged fast as a storm. Marcus dodged the first swing, but the second caught his shoulder, slamming him to the floor. Pain erupted, but he rolled, jabbing the rod into the Zorith's knee joint. The creature staggered, roaring, but Lyrian moved. She pulled a small device from her belt and fired a green energy pulse, dropping the Zorith to its knees, its shimmering form fading. Marcus panted, hauling himself up, eyeing Lyrian. "Thought you said you weren't a fighter?" She holstered the device, her gaze cool. "I said I know how to survive." She pulled him into the escape pod bay, sealing the door behind them. Inside, polished escape pods lined up, each big enough for two. Lyrian tapped rapidly on a control panel, powering one up. "Get in," she ordered. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Together? How romantic." Lyrian glanced at him, a faint smile tugging at her lips, the first he'd seen. "Live or joke, your call." Marcus climbed into the pod, settling beside her. "Both." The pod hummed as its engines kicked on, red lights flashing for launch. But before they could eject, a deafening blast shook the ship. The pod's screen showed the Valther's power core overloading, white light flooding the vessel. Lyrian cursed in Sylari, her fingers frantic on the controls. The Zorith hit the core. "We've got 3 minutes before this ship blows." Marcus looked at her, unflinching. "You saved me this time. Next time's on me." Lyrian didn't reply, but her fingers paused for a heartbeat, her eyes meeting his. The pod launched, rocketing into the black void as the Valther's light snuffed out behind them. Just when they thought they'd escaped, an alarm blared. "Sylari patrol ships," Lyrian said, gripping the controls. "They're on our tail." The pod shuddered through a cosmic dust cloud, starlight glinting faintly through the viewport. Marcus stared out, freedom and danger twisting together in his gut. He turned to Lyrian, sensing her tension, not fear, but something deeper unspoken. "You know this ship better than any doctor should," he said, not a question. Lyrian kept her eyes on the controls. "I grew up on it. I know every inch." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "So why help me? A prisoner, a human?" She froze, her fingers hovering over the screen. "Because you're not what they say humans are. They call you weak, brittle. But you don't break." Marcus gave a faint grin, pain still throbbing. "You haven't seen me on a bad day." Lyrian glanced at him, her gaze softening. "I've seen enough." She hit a button, and the pod surged forward, weaving past a small asteroid. The alarms grew louder. "They're locking on," she said, hands moving faster. "Give me something to do," Marcus said, restless. Lyrian pointed to a secondary panel. "Check the shield system. If it's weak, we're missile bait." Marcus nodded, unfamiliar with Sylari tech but quick to adapt, his fingers gliding over the controls. "I'm no engineer, but I fix trucks back on Earth. Can't be that different, right?" Lyrian didn't answer, but her lips twitched upward. The pod jolted as a nearby explosion rocked the void. "They're firing," she said, calm but urgent. Marcus checked the screen, seeing 3 Sylari patrol ships closing in. "Got a plan besides running?" "Not yet," Lyrian said, eyes glued to the display. "But I'm working on it." She yanked the controls, diving the pod into a thick dust cloud, masking their signal. "They'll lose us in here, but not for long." Marcus watched her, realizing she wasn't just acting on duty. Something personal drove her, something she wasn't sharing. "You're risking everything," he said, voice serious. "Why?" Lyrian didn't answer right away, focused on piloting. After a moment, she said, "I've seen them destroy people like you. No reason, no humanity. I'm done being part of that. Marcus studied her, sensing the truth in her words. Then we take them on together, he said. The pod cleared the dust cloud, but the alarm screamed again. They've found us, Lyrian said, hands tightening on the controls. Marcus peered out, catching the patrol ship's lights flashing in the dark. Any weapons on this pod? Lyrian shook her head. It's an escape pod, not a fighter. Marcus grinned. Guess we'll have to get creative. He scanned the pod, spotting a small metal case in the corner with maintenance tools. He popped it open, pulling out a device resembling a flare gun. What's this do? Lyrian glanced over. Shoots thermal flares for rescue signals. Marcus's grin widened. Or decoys. Her eyes sparked with surprise. What's your plan? Marcus nodded at the screen. Fire flares into the dust cloud. The heat will throw off their missiles. Lyrian nodded, no hesitation. Do it. Marcus aimed through the viewport, launching a salvo of flares into the cloud. Bright bursts erupted, and on the screen, the patrol ship's missiles veered, chasing the decoys. Not bad, Lyrian said, a hint of admiration in her tone. Marcus shrugged. Call me Marcus. She glanced at him but said nothing, focusing on piloting. They darted through an asteroid field, dodging spinning rocks. The alarms didn't stop. They're still coming, Lyrian said. We need a place to land. Where? Marcus asked, staring into the black void. Lyrian tapped the console, pulling up an image of a small planet cloaked in gray clouds. Clyros 4. An abandoned Sylari colony. No patrols there. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Sounds like a trap. Lyrian met his gaze. Or our only shot. The pod plunged toward the planet, shaking as it hit the atmosphere. Marcus felt the heat rising, sweat beading on his forehead. He glanced at Lyrian, her focus intense, but he caught the strain in her grip on the controls. You scared? He asked, softer now. No, she said, but her eyes flickered. I'm not used to this, saving people. Marcus chuckled. You're doing better than you think. The pod jolted as it hit the ground, skidding across a rocky, dusty plain. When it stopped, they both exhaled, but there was no time to rest. The hum of engines echoed, patrol ships entering the atmosphere. We've got to move, Lyrian said, popping the pod's hatch. Marcus stepped out, Clyros 4's frigid air slamming into him. He scanned the ruins of a forsaken city, crumbled towers, metal vines crawling over everything. Welcome to paradise, he said, voice dry. Lyrian pulled him into a shattered building, ducking as patrol ship lights swept the sky. They crouched in the dark, their breaths mingling. Marcus noticed her standing closer than necessary, and he wondered if it was the danger, or something else. You know this place? He asked. I've read about Clyros 4, she said. Abandoned after a failed uprising. There are tunnels underground, leading to an old storage depot. We can hide there. Marcus nodded, still wary. And if they find us? Lyrian looked at him, her gaze steady. We fight. Marcus grinned, feeling a real connection for the first time. Now you're talking like a human. They crept through the ruined streets, dodging the patrol ship's beams. When they reached a tunnel hidden beneath a collapsed wall, Marcus heard heavy footsteps in the distance. Not patrol ships, something bigger, deadlier. Zorith? He whispered. Lyrian nodded, her hand tightening on her energy weapon. They don't just want you dead. They want everything human erased. Marcus met her eyes, his resolve hardening. Then let's show 'em humans don't go down easy. They slipped into the tunnel, darkness swallowing them. But inside Marcus, a fire burned. He wasn't just fighting to survive, he was fighting to prove humanity's unbreakable spirit. And beside him, Lyrian, though silent, was walking a path with no turning back. The darkness in the Clyros 4 tunnels was heavy as lead, broken only by the faint glow of Lyrian's wrist device. The air was frigid, damp, reeking of rusted metal and rotting stone. Marcus trailed her, each step shooting pain through his cracked ribs, but he kept pace, refusing to let her see him falter. The hum of Sylari patrol ships echoed faintly above, mingling with eerie sounds, metal scraping against rock, resonating from deep within the tunnels. "This doesn't look like a warehouse," Marcus said, his eyes scanning the stained walls, crawling with metallic vines that pulsed like the planet's veins. Lyrian didn't turn, her hand gripping her energy blaster. "It's not. This is an old mining sector, abandoned when the Sylari pulled out. The tunnels lead to a covert research station." Marcus raised an eyebrow, though she couldn't see it. "Covert? You know way more than a doctor should." Lyrian stopped, turning to face him, her purple eyes glinting in the dim light. "I used to work for them. Not as a doctor, but a bioengineer. I design things that shouldn't exist." She turned away, resuming her stride, but Marcus caught the weight in her words. "Designed what? Weapons? Or something worse?" he asked, keeping his tone light but unable to hide his curiosity. Lyrian didn't answer right away, leading him through a turn where the tunnel widened into a vast cavern. Broken metal pillars littered the ground, and Lyrian's light illuminated walls carved with Sylari symbols, distorted as if deliberately defaced. "Not weapons," she said after a pause. "Life. They wanted to create hybrids, blending Sylari DNA with other species. Humans were the end game." Marcus froze, his gaze hardening. "You mean they wanted to turn me into some freak?" Lyrian turned back, her eyes wavering. "Not you. But people like you. I refused to help, so they demoted me to doctor. A way to keep me quiet." Marcus let out a dry laugh, wincing as his ribs ached. "So you saved me to clear your conscience?" Lyrian didn't reply, just motioned for him to keep moving. But before they could go far, a piercing screech cut through the dark. Marcus yanked Lyrian behind a pillar, his hand tightening on a metal rod he'd scavenged from the ruins. A towering figure, shimmering like molten steel, stepped from the shadows. A Zorith, but not like the one on the Valthor. This one was smaller, faster, with metal tentacles sprouting from its back, whipping through the air like lashes. "Don't move," Lyrian whispered, her hand poised on her blaster. But Marcus didn't wait. He lunged, swinging the rod hard, smashing a tentacle. The Zorith roared, stumbling back, but another tentacle snaked around Marcus's wrist, yanking him to the ground. Pain flared, but he gritted his teeth, kicking hard at the creature's knee. It staggered, giving Lyrian an opening to fire a green energy pulse, dropping the Zorith as its tentacles twitched and stilled. Marcus panted, standing and rubbing his sore wrist. "You shoot too damn slow." Lyrian stepped close, checking him over, her eyes worried but guarded. "You jumped in too fast. Don't do that again." Marcus smirked. "No promises." She shot him a look, but her lips twitched, as if she was getting used to his recklessness. They pressed on, the tunnel narrowing, the air growing stifling. Lyrian led him to a heavy metal door, caked in dust and scorch marks. She punched a code into the panel, but the screen flashed red, rejecting it. "Systems locked," she said, fingers flying as she tried to hack it. Marcus glanced around, unease creeping up his spine. The metallic scraping sounded again, closer now. "We're out of time," he said, grabbing a jagged metal shard from the ground. "Let me try." Lyrian looked at him, surprised. "You know Sylari locks?" Marcus grinned. "Nope, but I know how to hit hard." He slammed the shard into the panel, sparks flying. Lyrian shook her head but worked faster, using the damage to bypass the system. The door groaned open, revealing a dimly lit corridor leading to an abandoned lab. Inside, dusty lab tables were strewn with broken vials and wrecked equipment. A large wall screen flickered with a blurry image of a bizarre creature, half Sylari, half something else, with mechanical arms and glowing red eyes. Marcus stopped, staring at the screen. "This what you built?" Lyrian shook her head, her gaze darkening. "No. This is what they made after I left. They called it project synthesis." Marcus turned to her, his eyes steely. "What were they trying to do with it?" Lyrian approached the screen, her fingers brushing it, activating an old recording. Images appeared, humans chained, injected with shimmering liquid, their bodies convulsing as they morphed into horrific hybrids. They wanted soldiers, she said. Living machines, no emotions, no free will. But they failed. The creatures were unstable. They rebelled, destroyed Clyro's 4. Marcus's stomach churned. And now the Zorth want to pick up where they left off? Lyrian nodded. They think they can control it. They're wrong. She turned away, but Marcus grabbed her hand, gentle but firm. You know more than you're saying. Why'd you really save me? Lyrian met his gaze, her eyes conflicted, as if wrestling with herself. Because I saw you fight. You don't just survive. You defy them. I wanted to believe there's still hope. Marcus let go, but their eyes stayed locked. Hope won't keep us alive down here, he said, voice soft but steady. But I won't let you fight alone. Lyrian didn't respond, but her small nod said enough. They scoured the lab for anything useful. Marcus found a heavy device resembling a gun, its barrel faintly glowing. What's this do? He asked. Lyrian inspected it, frowning. Pulse rifle. It can disrupt a Zortha's nervous system, but it's got maybe a few shots before it dies. Marcus smirked, slinging it over his shoulder. Better than nothing. The familiar weight of a weapon boosted his confidence, if only a bit. The metallic scraping sounded again, closer than ever. Lyrian pulled Marcus into a shadowed corner as 3 Zorth entered, their metal tentacles lashing the air. They didn't spot them, but one paused, sniffing, as if sensing their presence. Marcus gripped the rifle, heart pounding, but Lyrian's hand on his shoulder signaled silence. She whispered, "They hunt by biosignals. Don't let your heart race." "Easy," Marcus said, knowing it was near impossible. The Zorth crept closer, a tentacle sweeping across a lab table, shattering a vial. Marcus felt Lyrian's breath beside him, close enough to sense her tension. He took her hand, not for comfort, but to remind them both they weren't alone. She didn't pull away. The Zorth finally moved on, but not far. Marcus and Lyrian slipped out, searching for another exit. They found a hidden door behind a wall, leading to a deeper tunnel. "This is where they stored test subjects," Lyrian said, her voice trembling slightly. "If we're lucky, there's a small ship at the end." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "And if we're not?" Lyrian didn't answer, just led him deeper. The tunnel grew colder, its walls lined with faintly glowing crystals, like trapped stars in stone. Halfway through, a roar shook the corridor. A larger Zorth, its body nearly translucent, appeared ahead. It didn't attack, just stood there, red eyes glaring. "It knows we're here," Lyrian said, clutching her blaster. Marcus raised the pulse rifle. "Let it try." He fired, a blue electric bolt ripping through the air, hitting the Zorth's chest. It roared, staggering back but not falling. Instead, it charged, tentacles whipping. Marcus shoved Lyrian aside, dodging a blow, but a tentacle grazed him, slamming him into the wall. Pain exploded, blood trickling from a fresh gash on his forehead. Lyrian fired repeatedly, her energy pulses slowing the Zorth. Marcus rolled, grabbing the rifle, and shot its knee. The creature collapsed, but a tentacle wrapped around Marcus's leg, dragging him toward it. He stabbed the metal rod into the tentacle, forcing it to release, but the Zorth's strength drained him. Lyrian rushed forward, firing a final shot, disabling it. Marcus gasped, leaning against the wall. "Nice shooting." Lyrian helped him up, her hand brushing the cut on his forehead. "You're hurt worse than you think." Marcus managed a weak grin. "I'm still standing, aren't I?" She didn't reply, but her gaze softened, like she was seeing him for the first time. They pushed on, reaching a wide chamber with a dusty, ancient shuttle. Lyrian checked the controls, frowning. "It's operational, but low on power. We've got one shot to get off this planet." Marcus looked at her, realizing the risk she was taking. "You don't have to do this. You could go back, say I kidnapped you." Lyrian turned, her eyes resolute. "I'm not going back. Not after what I've seen." Marcus nodded, respect swelling in him. "Then we run together." They climbed aboard, Lyrian firing up the engines. The shuttle rattled, groaning, but slowly lifted off. As they breached the atmosphere, an alarm blared. Sylari patrol ships, Lyrian said. They've found us. Marcus glanced at the screen, seeing 5 patrol ships closing in. They really don't want us alive. Lyrian nodded, her hands darting over the controls. It's not just you they're after. They want to erase all traces of Project Synthesis. And I know too much. Marcus gave a dry chuckle. Guess we're the galaxy's most wanted duo. The shuttle shook as it took a hit, shields flickering. Marcus grabbed the secondary controls, trying to stabilize it. Give me something to do, he said. Lyrian pointed to a red button. Activate the decoy system. It'll launch thermal flares. Marcus hit it, and a burst of flares erupted behind, drawing off 2 patrol ships. But 3 kept coming. Lyrian veered into a cosmic dust cloud, masking their signal. We need a plan, she said. Marcus peered out, spotting an abandoned space station drifting in the dark. That station, he said. If we get inside, they'll have a harder time tracking us. Lyrian nodded, but her eyes were wary. It's not safe. That station was a testing hub for Project Synthesis. So, your old stomping grounds, Marcus said, half teasing. Lyrian didn't smile, but her gaze softened. The shuttle raced toward the station, dodging patrol ship fire. As they neared, a massive explosion rocked the craft. Shields are down, Lyrian said. Marcus took her hand, silent, but his grip said he was with her. The shuttle crash-landed in the station's hangar, skidding through metal debris. They stepped out into an eerie silence, dark corridors filled with loose cables and broken tech, like a technological tomb. But before they could explore, a hiss echoed. A hybrid creature, half Sylari, half machine, emerged from the shadows, its red eyes glowing. Marcus raised the pulse rifle, but Lyrian pulled him back. Don't shoot, she said. It's not a Zorith. It's one of my test subjects. The creature paused, staring at Lyrian as if recognizing her. Marcus lowered the rifle, heart racing. You made this thing? Lyrian nodded, her eyes heavy with regret. I didn't know it was still alive. The creature didn't attack, retreating into the dark. But the roar of patrol ship engines grew louder. Marcus looked at Lyrian, his gaze steady. Whatever's waiting for us, we face it together. They ran deeper into the station, unsure what lay ahead, life, death, or a darker secret about Project Synthesis. But Marcus knew one thing. He and Lyrian had crossed the line from enemies to allies, and the road forward wouldn't be easy. The abandoned space station's darkness was oppressive, pierced only by the blazing red glow of the test subject's eyes, a hybrid of Sylari and machine, looming before Marcus and Lyrian. Its body shimmered like liquid steel, mechanical joints grinding with each move, yet it didn't attack. Marcus gripped the pulse rifle, finger poised on the trigger, but Lyrian grabbed his arm, her eyes tense but steady. Don't shoot, she said. It's not the enemy. Marcus raised an eyebrow, keeping the rifle up. You call this thing what, your best buddy? Lyrian didn't answer, stepping closer to the creature, hands raised in a gesture of peace. It tilted its head, red eyes scanning her, as if recognizing something. This is E-17, she said, voice soft but firm. I helped create it. It's not just a machine, not just Sylari. It thinks. Marcus lowered the rifle slightly, still wary. Thinks? You mean it's got a mind of its own? Lyrian nodded, her gaze fixed on E-17. Project Synthesis wasn't just about weapons. They wanted a new species. But E-17 and the other subjects started waking up, becoming self-aware. They rebelled, trashed this station. I think it's the last one left. The distant roar of Sylari patrol ship engines vibrated the metal floor. Marcus glanced out a station window, catching the flicker of 3 patrol ships' lights in the void. The Sylari don't give a damn if it's got a soul. They want to wipe out everything, us included. Lyrian turned, her eyes resolute. Then we protect it. And ourselves. Marcus let out a dry chuckle, pain throbbing in his ribs. Protect a mechanical monster? You sure know how to make things complicated. But he didn't argue. Something in how Lyrian looked at E-17, not scientific curiosity, but the guilt of someone who'd birthed something that shouldn't exist, hit him. He got it, in his own way. Back on Earth, he'd been a mercenary, doing things he wasn't proud of just to survive. All right, he said. But if it turns on us, don't blame me. Lyrian nodded, motioning E-17 to follow. The creature moved slowly, joints screeching, but didn't lash out. They ran through dark corridors, tangled with loose cables and metal debris. Lyrian led, her wrist device casting light on walls etched with distorted Sylari symbols, now dusty and warped. Marcus trailed, rifle ready, eyes scanning every shadow. The patrol ship's engines grew louder, punctuated by small explosions. They were bombarding the station. We need the control center, Lyrian said, shoving open a broken door. If it's still functional, I can activate the station's shields or at least the auto defenses. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You sure this wreck's got anything left to defend with? Lyrian shot him a look. I built this place. I know what it's got. Marcus grinned. You keep surprising me. They dashed through a wide corridor, littered with shattered equipment and dead screens. E-17 followed, its heavy steps shaking the floor. Marcus didn't trust it, but its glowing eyes, despite their fire, lacked hostility. They reached the control center, a circular room with a massive screen and dusty consoles. Lyrian dove in, fingers flying over buttons. The screen flickered, displaying a station map and the patrol ship's positions. They're breaching the hangar, she said. We've got 5 minutes, maybe less. Marcus eyed E-17, standing still in the corner. Can your pal do anything besides look scary? Lyrian kept typing, not looking up. It can interface with the station's systems. E-17 connect. The creature tilted its head, a metal tentacle plugging into the console. The screen lit up with a flood of code. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Okay, I take it back. That's pretty damn useful. But before Lyrian could activate the shields, a deafening blast rocked the station. A wall exploded, smoke and dust pouring in. 4 Sylari soldiers in gleaming armor stormed through, their glowing weapons aimed straight at them. Dr. Lyrian! One barked. You've gone too far. Hand over the human and the subject, or die here. Marcus raised the pulse rifle, nudging Lyrian behind him. You want to talk this out, or should I handle it? Lyrian gripped his arm, her eyes unwavering. Together. She drew her energy blaster, standing beside him. E-17 roared, a tentacle lashing out, knocking one soldier flat. Marcus fired a pulse shot, hitting another in the chest, dropping him in spasms. Lyrian unleashed a barrage, taking down a third, but the last soldier charged, plunging an energy blade into Marcus's shoulder. Pain erupted, blood soaking his arm, but Marcus gritted his teeth, smashing the rifles but into the soldier's head, sending him crashing down. E-17 wrapped a tentacle around the final soldier's neck, lifting and hurling him into the wall. Marcus panted, leaning against the console. You okay? He asked Lyrian, despite the blood drenching his shirt. She rushed to him, checking the wound. You need a bandage now. Marcus flashed a weak grin. Later. Get the shields up first. Lyrian nodded, returning to the console, her hands trembling slightly as she typed. The screen glowed, showing the station's shields activating, blocking the patrol ship's fire. But a new warning flashed. They're hacking the system, Lyrian said. The shields won't hold long. Marcus glanced at E-17, still plugged into the console. Can your buddy help? Lyrian typed rapidly, linking with E-17. It can send a fake signal, make them think we've left the station. She issued commands, and E-17 responded with metallic clanks. The screen showed a decoy signal mimicking a departing ship. 2 patrol ships veered off, chasing it, but the third stayed put. They're not that easy to fool, Marcus said, wiping blood from his forehead. Lyrian met his gaze, determination burning. Then we blow this station. If they get Project Synthesis's data, they'll restart the experiments. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Blow it up? You sure? We're still inside. Lyrian nodded, her hands racing over the console. The station has a self-destruct system. If I trigger it, we've got 10 minutes to get out. Marcus scanned the room, spying an escape pod bay in the corner. You do love making things messy. He pulled her toward the pods, but E-17 didn't budge. It's not coming? He asked. Lyrian looked at E-17, her eyes heavy with regret. It knows it can't leave. If the Sylari capture it, they'll rebuild the project. E-17 emitted a low hum, as if agreeing. Marcus stared at the creature, unease rising. It's sacrificing itself for us? Lyrian nodded, silent, but her hand tightened on his. She triggered the self-destruct, the screen counting down from 10 minutes. They sprinted to the escape pod bay, E-17 staying behind, its tentacles deep in the console, keeping the shields up. Marcus and Lyrian climbed into a cramped pod, barely big enough for two. Lyrian fired up the engines, the pod shuddering as it launched. Through the viewport, Marcus saw the station glowing, its core overloading. What did you do to E-17? He asked as the pod shot into space. Lyrian kept her eyes on the controls. I gave it freedom in its own way. It chose to stay. Marcus nodded, respect swelling, for her and the strange creature. It's more human than I thought. The pod weaved through a debris cloud, dodging station fragments. But the remaining patrol ship pursued, its energy blasts rattling the pod's shields. They don't quit, Lyrian said, gripping the controls. Marcus checked the screen, spotting an asteroid cluster ahead. Head for that. We can lose them. Lyrian nodded, steering into the cluster, dodging spinning rocks. The patrol ship fired again, one shot hitting an asteroid, shattering it and masking their signal. Marcus grabbed the secondary controls, helping stabilize the pod. Not a bad driver, he said, trying to lighten the mood. Lyrian glanced at him, a faint smile tugging her lips. You're not half bad yourself, Marcus. The pod cleared the asteroids, but the shields were nearly gone. Lyrian scanned the display, searching for a destination. There's a star system nearby, she said. An unclaimed desert planet, outside Sylari control. We can hide there. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Another ghost town? You've got weird taste. She didn't reply, but her gaze softened. The pod raced toward the system, engines whining under strain. As they neared the planet, a gray-green world with swirling clouds, the patrol ship reappeared, landing a hit on the pod's tail. The craft lurched, plunging through the atmosphere, smoke trailing from the engines. Hold on. Lyrian shouted, yanking the controls. The pod crash-landed in a field of wild grass and rocks, skidding to a stop. Marcus and Lyrian scrambled out, sprinting into a nearby forest of towering trees with shimmering metal leaves. They ducked behind a trunk, the patrol ship's engines roaring overhead. They'll find us, Lyrian said, checking her near-depleted blaster. Marcus looked at her, blood crusted on his forehead, shoulder aching, but his eyes unyielding. They don't know how stubborn humans are. He grabbed a sharp metal branch from the ground, wielding it like a makeshift weapon. Lyrian watched him, a hint of admiration in her eyes. You never give up, do you? Not my style, he said, flashing a strained grin. They moved deeper into the forest, seeking cover. Lyrian spotted a small cave hidden behind vines. They slipped inside, the tight space safe but claustrophobic. In the dark, their breaths mingled, Marcus feeling the warmth of her closeness. You gave up everything, he said softly. Your family, your job, your whole world. For me. Lyrian met his gaze, her purple eyes glinting. Not just for you. For what's right. I'm done following orders, building things that destroy. Marcus took her hand, fingers interlocking. You're not alone anymore. She didn't pull away, just studied him, searching for something. You're the first human I've met, she said. And you make me think maybe we're not so different. Marcus gave a faint smile. Different enough to keep things interesting. Before she could reply, an explosion echoed outside. The patrol ship had landed, heavy Sylari footsteps approaching. Marcus and Lyrian stood, ready to fight. He handed her the metal branch, keeping the pulse rifle. "You ready?" he asked. Lyrian nodded, gripping the weapon. Together, they burst from the cave, facing 6 Sylari soldiers, their weapons blazing. Marcus fired a pulse shot, dropping one. Lyrian stabbed the branch into another's chest, swift and precise. They fought as a unit, dodging and covering each other, but the numbers overwhelmed them. A soldier's energy blade sliced Marcus's leg, sending him crashing down. Lyrian screamed, firing wildly, taking out the soldier. She pulled Marcus up, but he pushed her back. "Run!" he shouted. "I'll hold them off." Lyrian shook her head, eyes wet. "No! I'm not leaving you." She dragged him into the forest, his blood trailing behind. They dodged shots, reaching a sheer cliff above a shimmering river. Marcus panted, looking down. "Can you swim?" Lyrian nodded, though her eyes were panicked. "Trust me," he said, tightening his grip on her hand. They jumped, icy water swallowing them. They surfaced, clinging to each other, drifting downriver, the Sylari's shouts fading. The river carried them to an open shore, where they crawled out, soaked and exhausted. Marcus lay back, staring at the star-filled sky, Lyrian beside him. "We made it," he said, voice weak but firm. Lyrian turned, resting a hand on his chest. "We're not safe yet. But for the first time, I feel free." Marcus looked at her, warmth stirring in his chest. "Freedom's a hell of a start." He took her hand, and they lay there under the stars, knowing the fight wasn't over. The Sylari would keep hunting, and Project Synthesis's secrets remained buried. But Marcus knew one thing. He and Lyrian had found each other, and together, they could face whatever the universe threw at them. They stood, stepping into the dark, unsure what this planet hid but ready to fight, for freedom, for each other, and for humanity, the stubborn bastards who never back down. As you close the tale of Marcus and Lyrian, I hope their journey has seared itself into your soul, like a star blazing through the endless void. This story, steeped in the humanity, fuck yeah! Spirit isn't just a clash against the universe, it's a battle cry that our greatest strength lies not in guns or tech, but in our ability to connect, defy, and never quit. Marcus, with his grit and gallows humor despite the pain, proves humans can get knocked down 100 times and still stand. Lyrian, evolving from a cold Sylari scientist to a comrade who ditches everything, learns freedom isn't just breaking chains, it's choosing your own path. The heart of this story lies in the collision of two worlds, human and alien, tough and tender, reason and raw emotion. Marcus and Lyrian don't just fight Sylari or Zorith, they wrestle their own limits. Project Synthesis, with hybrids like E17, asks, what makes us human? Not flesh, not circuits, but will, compassion, and the choice to sacrifice for something bigger. The takeaway? Even in the darkest void, a spark of connection, friendship, love, or empathy, can ignite hope and shift the cosmos. I wrote this tale in quiet moments, my mind drifting among the stars, dreaming of a human who never surrenders and a Sylari who dares to rebel. I wonder, did Marcus's pulse pound in your chest as he plunged into that freezing river? Did Lyrian's inner struggle hit home? Did E17's choice to stay make you ponder what freedom really means? I'm dying to hear your thoughts. As a storyteller, I need your feedback's light to guide me, to know which moments made you laugh, grip your seat, or tear up. Tell me, do you want Marcus and Lyrian's saga to continue? Does Project Synthesis's mystery hook you? Did that metal-leaved forest spark something in you? Like Marcus and Lyrian holding hands under the stars, I'm reaching across the void, hoping to connect with you. Your reactions, whispered in awe, shouted in excitement, or mulled in silence, shape the stories I'll spin next. Maybe, like them, we're a symbiotic pair, writer and reader, exploring worlds that live only in our shared imagination. Until we meet again, keep the HFY fire burning, and know that out there in the universe, Marcus and Lyrian are still fighting. And maybe, just maybe, they're glancing your way.